Since 1970, the Norwegian police have been unable to explain the mysterious death of a woman whose body was found partially burned. We tell you why in 2016 the citizens of this country decided to resume the investigation and what a serious clue scientists managed to find. In the 1970s, Norway, and then the whole world was shocked by the mysterious story of the death of an unknown woman. However, then the police could not solve this case. The evidence found seemed to say everything, but at the same time, about nothing in particular. Who was this unknown? A fugitive? A spy? Did she commit suicide, realizing that her enemies would remove her anyway, or did members of some sect brutally kill her during the ritual? According to BBC correspondents, in 2016, local journalists gave a new impetus to this investigation by asking scientists to conduct an examination of the remaining DNA using a modern method. The efforts of the reporters led to an unexpected result. On November 29, 1970, Professor Ørjar Øyen and his two daughters went on vacation to the Isdalen Valley, better known as the Valley of Death. In the Middle Ages, local people often committed suicide there, and in the 1960s, several tourists died. The family's walk ended earlier than expected. Not far from Mount Ulriken, where visitors usually do not reach, they found the burned body of a woman. The police who arrived at the scene of the crime noted that the unknown woman had burns only on one side. Her back remained unharmed. Probably, the woman, who could not be identified because of the damage, recoiled from the fire. There was not a single label on the remains of the burnt clothes, by which it would be possible to determine in which store the item was purchased. Accordingly, it was also not possible to find out the name of the customer. Law enforcement officers found several objects near the body: a bottle of liquor, two partially charred water bottles, earrings and a ring, a watch, a broken umbrella, a scarf, the remains of rubber boots, a burnt passport cover. The way these objects were laid out on the ground surprised the investigators. However, there were no emblems or other identification marks on these objects. A fur hat soaked in gasoline was also found under the body, so it became clear how the stranger was set on fire. At the same time, absolutely nothing indicated the identity of the deceased. Who was she? When examining the body on the right side of the neck, forensic experts found a large bruise, but they could not understand whether the woman was hit or she fell by herself. It turned out that the deceased was not ill with anything. One of the questionable findings was a sleeping pill. At least 50 pills were found in the woman's stomach, which had not completely dissolved by the time of death. The woman died painfully, poisoned by sleeping pills and carbon monoxide. The police concluded that it was suicide. However, the citizens of the city of Bergen, not far from which the valley is located, did not believe in this version. Doubts about this theory were also caused by other evidence that was found in attempts to find out at least something about the identity of the deceased. Employees of the Bergen railway station identified the deceased. It turned out that a few days before her death, she had put 2 suitcases in the storage room. According to fingerprints, it was possible to confirm that the luggage belonged to her. A set of things for the first time made investigators think that the unknown was a spy. The suitcases contained glasses, clothes, which again had no labels, wigs, money from several countries, spoons, cosmetics, and other necessities. An eczema cream was also found. Delighted with such a find, the police were immediately disappointed. The date and names of the patient and the doctor who prescribed the ointment were erased on the tube. Nevertheless, law enforcement officers tried to find out where clothes and cosmetics were bought. They contacted several of the largest department stores in the world, but the sellers could not identify the brands. However, one thing that was in the suitcase turned out to be useful to the investigation. It was a package from Oscar Wertbid's store located in Stavanger. The shopkeeper remembered that not so long ago he had sold rubber boots similar to those found in Death Valley to a beautiful and statuesque woman. The police were able to determine that the woman, whose height was 164 centimeters, was about 40 years old. She was beautiful, dressed elegantly, and smoked. The unknown brunette had long hair, brown eyes, a rounded face, and small ears. The description made by Oscar, and then other witnesses, as well as the records found in the suitcase, among which there were encrypted documents, allowed law enforcement officers to find the hotels where the deceased lived.
It turned out that from March to November 1970, the woman stayed in 9 hotels, and each time for no more than 9 days. Fenella Lorch, Claudia Tielt, Vera Jarl are just some of the names used by the deceased. In those days when checking into a hotel, It was necessary to present a passport and fill out a questionnaire. It turned out that she was presenting false identity documents. Curiously, the brunette said that she was a saleswoman or an antique stealer, always ordered porridge with milk in the morning, and often changed the numbers. According to one version, a postcard from a photographer was found in the luggage of the deceased. The man told the police that he met the woman when he offered to give her a ride, and at the same time to have lunch. The stranger said that she came to travel to Norway for 6 months from Johannesburg, South Africa. However, when the police checked the name given by the photographer, it turned out that his owner was alive and well. Another witness, Alvild Rains, a waitress at the Neptune Hotel, noted that one day a woman was sitting in a restaurant next to 2 soldiers from Germany, although she did not talk to them. It also became known that the unknown spoke French, German, and broken English. On November 23, an alarmed woman was seen for the last time. She left the hotel, ordered a hymen, and got into a taxi. In 1991, the driver, who wished to remain anonymous, said that on the way to their destination they picked up a certain man. According to the most common version, the woman was a spy. The strange behavior of the deceased, as well as the fact that she gave the impression of a rich tourist, made the residents of Bergen believe in this theory. After all, in the 1970s, not many foreigners were interested in this small town. The presence of several passports indicated that she worked for a fairly large intelligence service. In addition, at that time there was a Cold War, and in Norway, they say there were a lot of spies. Israeli intelligence also worked in the country. All this, as it became known years later, forced the Norwegian special services to get involved in the case, especially since the woman visited the places near which the new missiles were tested. One fisherman even said that a woman allegedly watched the movements of the military in Stavanger. Alas, the help of special agents did not help the case, as did the decryption of the records found in the woman's suitcases. It turned out that the coded inscriptions meant no more than the dates and cities where the deceased had been. The investigation of foreign intelligence services also did not yield any results. In 1971, the police had to close the case and bury the woman in a zinc coffin, thanks to which her body does not decompose. Law enforcement officers invited a Catholic priest to conduct a funeral ceremony, assuming that she professed this particular religion. Nevertheless, there are still those who hope to find the woman's relatives. In 2016, evidence appeared that should have helped to do this. After the case was closed, Professor of Dentistry Jizzle Bang saved the jaws of the deceased in the hope that someday they would be useful. The woman had 14 fillings and several gold crowns, which in the future could tell about where she made them and therefore lived. Journalists of the NRK-TV and radio company became interested in this story in 2016 and at the same time found jaws in the archives of the University of Auckland. After that, the police resumed the case and gave the find to scientists so that they could find out with the help of modern methods where the woman grew up. In addition, tissues were also found in the archives of the educational institution, which made it possible to make a DNA test. For the first time in the history of the country, Norwegian specialists conducted isotope analyses of teeth, which are able to show what kind of water a person drank in childhood and what kind of food he loved in his youth. So you can identify the type of soil and accordingly the terrain. The examinations showed that the woman was born in southern or eastern Europe, but lived on the territory of the French-German border, where she moved shortly before or during the Second World War. Thus, the theory that she could have been an Israeli spy disappears. This seemingly insignificant fact can help to find those who knew the deceased or identified her with the help of information about the missing women at that time. To this day, enthusiasts from around the world are trying to investigate this high-profile case. BBC journalists have created a whole podcast called Death in the Ice Valley, and his fans have formed a group of the same name in social networks. Everyone is trying to find the truth, from amateur forensic clubs to relatives of those who participated in the first investigation. And who knows, maybe in time we will find out the truth.